Everywhere you look on the internet, someone is promising the top 10 tips to your first million, how to sell anything to anyone, top strategies to make you rich. Now, I'm not saying they don't have useful tips, but if any one of them held the secrets to success, we wouldn't need an endless stream of them. Hi, I'm Ian, co-founder of Focus 15, and today I want to talk about the art of selling. Something every founder has to do, but where the sheer volume of advice out there is overwhelming. The truth is, there is no magic formula. Selling is about one thing, and that is helping a customer to move along their buying journey from one step on the ladder to the next. From awareness to interest to consideration to decision to onboarding to value to delivery and follow-up. Now that journey can be really fast. Think about an aisle end display in a supermarket. You see a product for the first time, you pick it up, you take a look, you check out the offer, you pop it into your trolley, you pay it at the checkout, and you try it when you get home. Really quick. But sometimes the journey can take weeks, if not months. And the skill is recognising where your customer is on that journey and then helping them to move to the next step. And it doesn't start with your product or service features, it starts with understanding your customer's needs at that step of the journey. What will move them to the next step? Can you identify any barriers that they have and remove them? So let's say you're selling a car in a showroom. The customer's picked up a brochure, they've sat in the car, in other words, they've shown an interest. Your job isn't to close the sale right now, your job is to take them to consideration step, to understand what they'll be using the car for, what other options they've considered, how much they're looking to spend, what their experience was like sitting in the car. Asking the questions that allow you to uncover their real needs and concerns so that you can show how your car can be one that they actually consider buying. Too often people think selling is all about closing. And so often you see salespeople forcing the pace, pushing for a commitment or a signature. I remember when I wanted to buy my first house. I'd visited a couple of times, so I was clearly interested, but wasn't sure whether it was just slightly too expensive. Rather than helping me over that barrier, the estate agent tried to force my hand by telling me they had another buyer, a Mrs. Schneider, who'd visited that morning and said she was going to put an offer in later that day. So I said that's fine and walked out. 2 weeks later, the house was still on the market, and I managed to buy it for £5,000 less. You don't have to be pushy. Pushy selling makes me feel like I'm about to be kidnapped or mugged. It just puts me off. Think of it more like a jigsaw puzzle. Your customer is trying to describe the piece they're holding in their hand, and you're trying to introduce them to another product that's going to fit, giving them clarity or proof of how your product meets their needs. And the closer the natural fit, the easier it is. 90% of top performing salespeople use a needs-based approach rather than product pushing. And everything around an interaction plays a part. Selling isn't all about the conversation, the website, the layout of the showroom, the lighting, the quality of the brochure, the visibility of the pricing, the appearance of the staff and their availability when you want them. It all counts. I am constantly amazed how many companies get even the easiest steps wrong. When we were setting up our investor and supplier networks, 90% of companies we contacted didn't respond in 3 days. It's absolutely staggering. They all build fancy websites littered with calls to action. But how are you supposed to trust them to deliver for you if they fail at the very, very first step? Selling is about focusing on one step at a time and trying to move your customer to the next one. And if they need more time or more information, that's fine. Take their details, offer to get in touch in a few days. Let them know you're there to help. Manage them through their journey. And if you want to build a lasting brand and a successful business, I firmly believe honesty pays. Don't pretend your product meets their needs if it doesn't. This isn't The Apprentice where selling garbage is rewarded. If your customer is disappointed at the value discovery step, their follow-up will most likely be negative. And not only will that potentially impact other customers, but every positive buyer can potentially be a brand ambassador for you. Selling is fundamentally about mutual benefit. I actually think the term selling isn't really helpful because it's come to imply one person pushing something on someone else. But it's really more about matching, understanding needs, finding something that satisfies those needs, and the salesperson simply connecting those two things together. No magic tricks, just clarity and trust. So map out your customer's journey every step. Think about the needs and barriers at each of those steps and how your product or service can solve those needs and remove the barriers. Record and measure leads through each of the steps so you know where they are. Not only will that process help you move customers through their journey, it will also help you identify where you have gaps and where people are dropping out. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, hit subscribe, drop a comment, or get in touch at focus15.co.uk. In the meantime, stay focused and see you in the next one.